Hi, I'm Krista. Welcome to the reading. Today's reading was really unexpected and kind of came out of nowhere for me. To warn you, most of this reading will be channeled, and I'm going to try to walk you through the channeling that I experienced and the messages that were coming in and the order that they were coming in. And I heard two things at the same time. I heard blooming rose, and so that made me grab this rose here as a representation of what I was hearing. And I was also getting the image of someone standing at the gates of a concert or some type of gathering where you're waiting for the gates to open to go inside. And then I felt drawn to Mary Magdalene and this feminine energy present in this reading. So I went and I grabbed my Mary Magdalene deck, and the card that came out was this one, 7, Vision Comes From Within. And in the card, she's sitting in a field of blossoming flowers. Just like this flower here, and I was like, that's pretty crazy. And in the background, if you hear like squeaking and stuff, that's my dog playing with his toy. It's a compromise I have to make to be able to film these videos, is to distract him with something. And also it's worth mentioning that this candle here has been burning very brightly and very erratic and very fiery. And I feel that it represents the energy of this fire horse that we're entering, the year of the fire horse. When Spirit was showing me the imagery of waiting outside, waiting for those concert doors to open, they were tying it back to me to this year of the fire horse. And as we have just entered this year of the fire horse, I feel like we're ready to giddy up and go. Like we're ready to move with this passion, this fiery energy that we've been accumulating over time, especially through this last year. And it was like Spirit was saying, just a little bit longer. You're at the doors of the concert and you're waiting to get in. And usually in a circumstance like that, you're excited. You've been waiting for this thing to happen and you're so excited to be able to go and see this concert play out or this event play out. And they said anticipatory joy. That is the feeling that they are encouraging you with right now. Not a feeling of waiting for the doors to open and being upset by the waiting, but anticipating moving forward. To allow yourself to feel this excitement before this thing truly begins. And then Spirit was showing me this relationship between joy and work. A relationship between everyday joy and the things that you have to do every day, like those everyday tasks. And they showed it like this to me. I drew it out where it's like you have joy in your heart space on one side and work and service, as in service to God, service to your divine self. And it was like each one was a line and the energy was going back and forth between the two, like a symbiotic relationship. Or they showed it to me also as particles bouncing, like particles in the middle and like bouncing between these two energies, like sharing these energies together. And then I felt called to the Bible verse, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord you are serving. And that's from Colossians 3:23-24. And the way they have me interpreting this is, in whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. And to me, that is the heart space, the divine self within, your connection to God. That you are working through that divine space and not through human masters I took as ego and all the things that pertain to, like fear, shame, worry, doubt, all those things as humans that we have put upon ourselves. And I felt like this was a message saying, in this new dawning for you, in this blossoming for you, you're no longer doing things from that egoic space, but you're doing things from the space within, the space that's connected to the divine. And this verse says, you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. And I felt Mary Magdalene and my guides coming in to clarify this. And they're saying that this inheritance and reward that this verse is speaking of is that joy. It is the joy that Jesus speaks of so much, to be filled with joy. Because when you're connected to your heart space and back to your soul and back to source, you're connected into that joy. And that the joy is not a reward. That reward is not the right word for it. Because to me, when I think of the word reward, I think of being rewarded because I've done something, I've excelled at something. And they're saying that this joy isn't being felt because you're being rewarded with joy, but rather because you've unearthed the joy inside of yourself, that you've blossomed, the rose has opened, you've experienced an expansion, an awakening, a heart opening, that you yourself are more connected to your joy within, that the joy was always there. And now that you've peeled away these layers of ego, and they're showing that to me like a rose being tight, like a rosebud, real tight, and that you've opened up, you've allowed more light in. Joy is now, I'm seeing like bubbling up from within your soul. And I feel that's when this card comes into play, because this card is about Mary Magdalene going into the cave, and it was said that when she was in the cave, she would connect to Jesus 7 times a day. That the angels would come and lift her up, and she would ascend and meet with Jesus. And the guidebook says, and legends say that 7 times a day, Mary was lifted above the Holy Mount in the south of France by 4 angels 7 times a day. And then the author, Megan Watterson, of this oracle deck says, I think this means she freed herself from the 7 powers of the ego, so she could see clearly again and again with the eye of the heart. And I feel that's why this card has come up, because your guides are saying, like, this is what you have been doing to connect back to that joy. That you're connecting over and over and over again, and reminding yourself of that divine connection that you have, and centering yourself over and over and over again, just like she's centering herself in this card. And that's what's allowed you to open up and blossom. That you found this symbiotic relationship between joy and everyday life. Like, this is you in the center, staying centered, having the energy come down through these 2 channels. And also the number 7 in this card reminded me of the Christian mystic Saint Teresa, who wrote a book called The Interior Castle, and in that book she talks about the 7 mansions of the soul, and she described the soul as a diamond castle, and in it were 7 mansions that represented stages of spiritual growth and awakening with God. And this card represents to me that you are on this journey, that you're going through those 7 stages, the 7 mansions, getting deeper and deeper into your connection with God and into the connection of the divine within yourself. And again, that's why you're opening up to this joy in your life. And back to that phrase I heard, anticipatory joy, it also reminded me of the story when Elizabeth met Mother Mary. That Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist, and Mary was pregnant with Jesus. And they were cousins, and they were spending time together. And when they first came together, Elizabeth said, the baby in my womb leaped for joy, because the baby in her womb, John the Baptist, was connecting to the baby in Mary's womb, Jesus, connecting to that joy in Jesus. And you are going through the same leaping of joy, that you are also connecting to the joy in Jesus, that same joy that John the Baptist felt. And that's why you're like ready for these gates to open. You can feel the change within yourself, I'm hearing. And then I pulled this card. The eye of the heart, we contain the treasure. And I knew immediately that this was connecting right back to that heart space that Spirit has been talking about this whole time. And in the guidebook for this card, it says, Christ is praising Mary's bravery, her willingness to be present to this capacity to see with the vision of love directly from within her. And again, I feel that is what you have been doing. And it says she's wonderful because she has freed herself from the 7 powers of the ego to be able to receive a vision of Christ. She's wonderful because her love for him allows her to be greater than what she could be on her own. She's wonderful because she's experiencing this truth, this secret that everyone knows, we contain the treasure. Mary's wonderful because she has become a bridge between this world and the next by seeing with the eye of the heart. And it says, what we desperately seek outside of us, we actually contain. We contain the treasure. And that treasure, again, refers back to the reward, the inheritance. That the treasure is already within us, and you've unearthed it. You've unearthed the treasure of going on this sacred spiritual journey and connecting. And you can call it like the 7 chakras, or you can call it like St. Teresa does, the 7 mansions. And it's going within and getting closer and closer to God and to the God within you. And when I say God within you, I don't mean that you are God, but the connection, the oneness, tapping into all the things that have already been declared for you. Love, joy, peace, all those things that come when you feel centered and in connection to Source. Those are the treasures that you've discovered. And I feel like Spirit is saying, before these gates open into this year of the Fire Horse, before things truly get started and start picking up, which I feel will be around May, there will be this build up to May and into the summer. By the summer, things will be at the peak. But right now, they're showing it to me as spring will be that momentum, the building. And they're saying that this is different from the pause. You may have just experienced a pause right before the year of the Fire Horse began. And it was that last year of the snake, the clearing out. And because I feel collectively we experience this pause, I feel a lot of us are even more ready to get going. And I feel that's another reason why this feminine energy is in this reading, because this feminine energy is saying to go with the flow, nourish yourself, wait, and that's the balance. And I know that the masculine and feminine energy, the balance between the two, is going to be very important this year to not burn out, to not get caught up in that fire energy. That there needs to be like a moving and pausing and moving and pausing. And it's really like this energy here too, this back and forth between the feminine and the masculine energy within us, of knowing when to stop and come back to ourselves and nourish ourselves. And I feel this time before the gate opens, and now they're showing me like a horse race where all the horses are lined up ready to go, ready to charge forward. And it's like this is the time now to go within and connect to that eye of the heart. Connect to your inner castle, the inner mansions of your heart, and set that intention of knowing what you want. Where is your heart leading you? So that when that gate does open, you know where you're going. You know the trajectory that you're headed on, because they're saying that this energy of the fire horse, they're showing me a metaphor of like chutes and ladders, or the game Snakes and Ladders, where sometimes you land on a space and you go past like a whole bunch of spaces. Like you get straight to where you're going. And that is how this year of the fire horse feels like it's going to play out. Like if you sit within yourself and you sit within your soul self, what your heart truly desires, and not like what your ego desires or things that you think you desire because other people's impressions have been put on you, but like what you truly want. If you take that time to really feel that within yourself, it'll be like a straight shot. It'll be like the gates are open and you're the horse taking off right out of the gate, right to where you need to be, right to what your heart's desiring. It's like setting the GPS to the course of your heart, and Spirit's like, okay, we're gonna take you there the fastest way possible. Whereas if you let ego drive, is if you set it to things of the ego, that you might hit traffic, you might hit roadblocks, you might hit a detour and go off road. And I feel that all roads will eventually lead to the same place. They will all lead to your destiny. But in this particular year, you have the power and ability to get there the fastest way. And they're reminding me, they're showing me this rose again and explaining it. It's not about receiving, getting there and getting this reward. It's about you've opened up. You've opened up like this rose to receive the gifts of the divine, allowing yourself to receive this inheritance. And I feel at one point it was blocked, not because you weren't worthy of it, but because you felt that you weren't worthy of it. And I'm hesitant to say, like, oh, you, like, Spirit was trying to give you this and you were blocked and that's why you weren't receiving it. Because I know that things happen for a reason and that we are here to learn lessons. And I feel that sometimes those blockages are on purpose, that we're meant to be blocked to learn these certain lessons. Like, everything can't just be given to us. There's a time, a divine timing, an order of things to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I feel that they're making me say that because what's different about this time is now is when it's supposed to be happening. And it's like they don't want you to close yourself off. They want you to take advantage of this energy because they want the best for you. They want the best possible version of the journey of getting there. And they want to help you through this. And they're saying, just like Mary Magdalene connected back 7 times a day, to remember that, to be checking in with yourself, not just now, but every day, over and over again, going within, going back to that heart space, doing things from that heart space in alignment with yourself. I feel like that is the message that they want you to hear right now. It's like, remember this energy, remember this anticipatory joy as you're going through the year, and come back to it. Remember what you did and how you felt, and use this as like a marker, like it's kind of, they're like showing me like as a save point in a game. Like, maybe, I don't know what's going to happen this year, but maybe things will get chaotic and fiery because it is the year of the fire horse, but they're saying go back to that save point, refresh, kind of, you know? It's interesting. And I wanted to pull a card from this oracle deck. It's called the Rose Oracle. After the rain. Silver lining, relief, hope, mercy, it's over, acceptance. And I feel this ties directly to this last year that we went through. And Spirit is reminding you that it's over. That has ended. After the rain comes the rainbow, just like the rainbow in this card. And rainbows always remind me of the covenant with God. And to me, that's just more symbolism of what you have been through has ended, and now you're entering into this divine covenant with God. And Saint Teresa, the seventh mansion, she talks about a sacred marriage between you and God, that spiritual awakening. And I feel that this pertains to you, that you're going through this, and that it's felt like a long journey with a lot of storms. But everything's opening up now. And this card came out, the wasteland, sustainability, slow down, tend to your garden. And I feel that is the back and forth energy of going forward and pausing and going forward and pausing to know when to slow down and take a break and tend to yourself, to nourish yourself, because you are that blossoming rose. They're saying acknowledge your energy, set those boundaries, take care of yourself, and that even if everything externally feels chaotic, because I really get from this card, like, everything outside of her, like, to me this looks like a power plant or just the world, like pollution in the world, that you can return to the center, to that fountain of joy that we talked about inside yourself, and get that nourishment from Source, that you and Source are one together, and everything on the outside doesn't matter as long as you're centering yourself and going back within to renew yourself, like renew your soul. And Mary's floating on these flowers, and that to me is saying to stay elevated, to stay out of this muck of the world, to stay open and awakened, like in this light that's coming down. And I feel the people in these cards are the elders, your ancestors, people and angels looking out for you in the spiritual world, soul family connected to you. And I'm hearing, seeing the work that you're not just doing for yourself, but you're doing for a whole line of family behind you. That you're the one that's opened this up for future generations. that you're the one that's doing the work for the past and you're doing the work for the future generations. And that's why it's so important to rest and nourish yourself, because that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And not to push yourself, to be sustainable with your energy, to slow down. And they're saying you're going to get there in perfect divine timing. Don't worry. We're taking you to that chute to move you across that game board faster than you can do it on your own. And to have faith in the process. And even though we're entering a year of the galloping fire horse, that you still want to take things at that slow and steady energy to not burn yourself out. Well, I'm going to close the reading here because I don't want it to get too long for you. And I feel like I've gotten everything out that they wanted me to say today. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for hanging out with me. Until we see each other in the next reading, I'm wishing you a wonderful and blessed day. Bye.